everybody, I'm Miss Biz, and tonight we're going to be learning all about the clothing craft in Elder Scrolls Online. So if you're a new player, maybe you just finally want to get into clothing, you should really check this guide out. It'll give you all sorts of tidbits and the absolute basics of how to get going in this craft. So, at first, what is clothing? Clothing is the craft where you can actually craft light and medium armor. There's no weapons you can craft with this, but you can craft two different types of armor, so it's pretty handy. We'll take a look at the skill tree for clothing and all the different passives you can put skill points into. First off, we have tailoring. This allows the use of whatever kind of cloth and whatever type of hide. The hide and the cloth actually determine what level you can craft. So when you only have 1 out of 9 skill points in here, you'll only be able to craft level 1 to 14 items. You put another skill point in, you'll be able to use the next material and therefore craft higher level items. Keen Eye. This is a really handy skill to have as well. When you're out harvesting for your raw materials that you're going to need, this actually makes the plants glow and sparkle and looks like they have smoke coming off of them, so they're a lot easier to spot. If you only put 1 out of 3 skill points into this, all the plants will be easier to spot when you're 20 meters or closer. 2 out of 3 skill points will be 30 meters or closer, and once you hit 3 out of 3 skill points, fibrous plants in the world will be easier to see when you are 40 meters or closer. Keep in mind, this is only going to be helpful if you're going to actually be working on light armor. If you have no intentions of working with light armor at all, you might not really need this skill. Then we have our Outfitter Hireling. Here, if you put 1 out of 3 skill points in, you're going to have a hireling send you a mail every 24 hours with some goodies in it. This could be raw materials, trait stones, style stones, improvement materials, really anything. If you put 2 out of 3 skill points in, your Outfitter Hireling will send you more cloth or leather and possibly better items every single day. Once again, this is still every 24 hours. If you decide to put a 3rd skill point into this, they'll actually send you those better items and materials every 12 hours. Something to note, and this may stop you from putting that 3rd skill point in, the timer for the 12 or 24 hours starts whenever you picked up the last mail from that hireling. So you actually have to log in and grab their mail, and then they'll send you something either 12 or 24 hours from that point. So if you can't log in twice a day, you're not going to actually be able to use that 3rd skill point to its advantage because you'll still only be getting 1 mail per day. Next up, we have Unraveling. This increases the chances of extracting clothing ingredients and allows the refining of the most powerful tannins from raw materials. What this means is when you refine raw materials, whether they be scrap hide or some plants for your clothing, you will actually be able to gain improvement materials and other items from this. The higher this is, the better the improvement materials are going to be and the more often you are going to receive them. So this is definitely a good one in order to get more bang for your buck when you're refining those raw materials. Stitching. This reduces your research time. Now, when you first start, you'll only be able to research 1 item at a time, and it takes a really long time. As you put skill points into this passive, you'll be able to research more items at a time, as well it's going to cut down on how long it actually takes to research an item. Once you have all 4 skill points in, it's going to reduce your research times by 25%. You'll be allowed to research 3 items at once, and the maximum research time is 30 days. Now, if you don't have this, when you go to learn the 9th trait on any one item, it's going to take you over 60 days just to research that one trait. So this is a really good one to have your skill points into if you want to be able to make those good crafted sets where you have to know a lot of traits for a specific item, or if you just want to learn all the traits so that you can just be a better crafter. Tannin expertise. This will actually improve the chance of improving items. So you'll notice that our improvement materials for woodworking are called tannins. When you go to improve an item, you're going to have to use more than one of these improvement materials. Well, if you continue to put skill points into this, you'll actually have to use less materials every time to get a 100% chance of improving that item. This really helps you save on your improvement materials, especially if you're using the higher up ones for epic and legendary gear. You really want to use as little of those as possible with the best chance possible. So now that we know where you're going to have to put all your skill points and what different skills are available to you, we're going to actually go and find ourselves a crafting station. Now to do this, you're going to look for an icon that looks like this. Or if you see where it says clothing station, there's the little scissors. That's another icon that's used for clothing stations. They're often situated right beside blacksmithing stations. We can also look up and we see a little banner here. It's an outfitter of some sort. That means there's going to be a clothing station nearby. Here we go. We found one. So we're just going to walk up and use it. The very first thing that you run into is your refining screen. This is where you take the raw materials and you actually refine them into usable materials to craft items. Now, there's a couple different ways to acquire these, especially because we're dealing with two different types of armor. One way is you can actually purchase either already refined or raw materials from other players, maybe via a guild trader, or you can harvest these on your own. Once again, there's a couple different ways to harvest because we're dealing with two different armor types. So we'll show you how to harvest all the stuff you need for your clothier craft. First nodes needed for our clothing craft. Here we have some creshweed. You'll notice how it's glowing and there's smoke coming off of it. This is because I do have the keen eye ability. We're gonna hop on another character soon here, and we'll show you what these will look like when you don't have the keen eye ability, and that they'll be a lot harder to spot. Something that actually sets the clothing craft apart from the rest in Elder Scrolls Online is how you acquire your raw materials. For your light armor, you're going to be harvesting resource nodes like the other crafts. But for medium armor, you actually need scrap hide, and this drops from mobs. So let's go kill a couple and see what happens. Here we found some top grain hide scraps, so we know that imps carry it. Something else to note is that if you are actually in an area that's lower level than you, you'll notice that the mobs don't drop loot. One thing they will drop though is their scrap hide. You don't out-level that. Now that we went and harvested a couple materials, we can now refine them. You can't actually craft anything with raw materials. You have to refine it before you can use it. Here we found some creshweed. You'll notice that you're only able to refine something if you have at least 10 of them. Then we got 7 crush fiber, and the next time we got 10 crush fiber. We'll continue refining all of our materials and see what we have. Oh, here we seem to get a trait stone. As well, we got embroidery, which is an improvement material. This is why you want to put skill points into that skill under your clothing, so you have a better chance of that happening. For medium armor, it's no different. You still need 10 of some unrefined material in order to refine it. There you go. We even got an improvement material with that one. Now we'll move on to the next tab, which is creation. Here's where you're actually going to craft an item. So let's look at our options. Up here is where you select what you would like to craft. You'll notice we have robe, shirt, shoes, gloves, everything. You also notice this is all light armor. If you're looking to craft medium armor, you just have to keep clicking over until near the end you'll notice now we have a rawhide jack. So this is all medium armor that we'll carry on with. Once you've chosen the item you would like to craft, you'll have to pick the material. you'll notice when you chose a medium item that it changed to your rawhide. If you go back to a light item, you'll have a different type of material. Light and medium use different materials. So, once you've decided what you're making, you can move on to actually choosing your material. At first, you're only going to be able to use the very first type of material for light and the very first type for medium. But once you keep putting skill points into that very top passive, you'll be able to use the next material. Now, materials do change what an item looks like a little bit, but that's really not what they're all about. It's so that you can actually change the level. You'll notice that jute here, we can craft the item from level 1 to 14. If I carry on with flax, I'll be able to craft an item 16 to 24. Moving on to cotton, that would be from level 26 to 34. Every material that you jump up, it just lets you craft a higher level item. This is also true for your medium armor. You'll just have to use a different type of hide or leather, and that will be what is actually chooses your level. You also notice that once you pick the material, you can actually add or reduce it, and this helps narrow down exactly what level you want. So let's just go on and make a pair of level 8 rawhide boots. We're making a medium armor item here. The next option you may have is style. At first, you're only going to know your own racial style, so you won't have any options here. In order to learn other racial styles, you're going to have to find racial motif books. You just find these mostly in furniture, in towns, maybe even in backpacks, and then you use it, the item goes away, but you will now be able to craft that style for all of your different crafts. You only need to find the book once, it's great. If you want to actually know what all the books are and what their rarity is like and all that, you can check out my general crafting guide. So if you do have the option, you can actually choose what style you want. All style does is actually changes the look of the item. This is what makes it look different. It does not actually attribute to how heavy the armor is or anything like that. It just changes how it looks. You also notice you're going to need a trait stone for whatever style you plan on crafting. These can be found in furniture, in crates, all over the world. Next on, we're going to move on to traits. You may not have any of these yet, but I'll give you a quick overview of what it is. Traits add some type of passive to the armor that you are crafting. In order to actually be able to use a trait, you don't find a book like you do with racial styles. You actually have to research an item. Once you have an item researched, if you have the appropriate trait stone, you'll be able to craft an item with a trait. Here, we'll craft a couple items. We'll craft one without a trait and one with one. And we'll carry on. The next tab you have is Deconstruct. Here you can deconstruct any items that you have in your bag or in your bank. So we'll look at what we have here. We have a homespun robe of health that we really don't need. So we're going to deconstruct it. This will destroy the item and you may get some of the materials back. We just received a jute. If we actually deconstruct something that is improved and has a trait, we have a chance of receiving back an improvement material as well as a trait stone. Let's see if we get one here. Here we actually got both. We have a trait stone plus one hemming, which was our improvement material, and an actual piece of material to go along with it. Deconstruction is a really good way to learn to get inspiration, which is actually your crafting experience points. Now, there is some better than others. If you deconstruct on different players' crafted items, they will return the most inspiration. It will not return as much if you crafted the item yourself. So it's good to find a partner and trade items with if you're trying to level up quickly. As well, you can deconstruct items that you find around in the world, that you get from quests, that you loot from mobs, all sorts of stuff. but it's a great way to help you level up. The next tab we have is Improvement. Here is where we can turn a white, normal item into a green, fine item, maybe a superior blue item, and so on and so forth. To do so, you're just going to need a crafted item. We'll slot that, and then you'll notice we need to use some hemming to improve it. As I noted, there is a skill that you can put skill points into so that you have to use less hemming. I have that maxed out. So currently, I only need to use 2 hemming to get a 100% chance. If you take a risk and you don't have this at 100%, if the improvement does not actually work, you will lose your improvement items, as well you will lose the crafted item you're trying to improve. So when you're really getting up there and dealing with high level or already high rarity items, you really want to make sure you have 100%. So we'll go ahead and improve it. It's going to warn us to make sure we're actually doing it. Another thing to note is that even though we're dealing with 2 different materials, light and medium, the improvement materials are the same for both. It doesn't matter if you're trying to improve a light piece of armor or a medium piece of armor, you still need to use hemming to improve it to fine. Once we've improved an item to fine, we can actually use embroidery and improve it even further. You'll notice that this just keeps, the armor keeps getting better, the armor rating of the item. That's why you're improving it. If you choose to improve an item that actually has a trait on it, it will actually also make that trait stronger. As you can see here, we're reducing the cost of sprinting by 6%, but if it were to improve the item, I reduce it by 7%. I won't go through all the different improvements, but know that you need hemming to make it green, you need embroidery to make it a blue item, you need elegant lining to make it a epic purple item, or you need Drew wax in order to make it a legendary or a gold item. You also have to improve it to the improvement state beforehand. Like I can't improve a white item automatically to a blue item. I have to first improve it to green and then to blue. Same goes for the rest. I cannot improve a green to a purple item without first improving it to blue. Now, research. This is how you'll actually be able to use those different traits I showed you earlier. Not really going to get into this as I have a full guide just on researching. But just so you know, you'll want to start researching early. And this is because it takes a really long time to do so. You're also probably going to put skill points into that skill I showed you earlier. When you are researching items, it will destroy the item. As well, you want to research items because let's say in breaches you were to know 1 trait on breaches. If you went to a special crafting station, such as Death's Wind, which is actually right here, this is another icon that signifies a crafting station. You need 2 traits to actually craft that fancy special set. If you do not know 2 traits on that item, you'll not be able to craft that specific item there. So you really want to start your research early on. It takes a long time and it's really, really helpful. If you want to learn more, such as what all these different traits do, you can check out my traits guide. You just want to learn about the researching? I have a researching guide as well. Now, we talked about deconstruction as a really good way to earn inspiration and level up your clothing. Well, another great way is by crafting writs. Once you hit level 6, you'll be able to do crafting writs. You'll just have to run up to this board, pull a little note down, and they'll send you to someone near a guild hall, and they'll certify you in the craft. Once you have been certified, you can actually come up every single day, this is a daily, pull a new crafting writ from the board, and it will add into your quest journal. You'll just need to craft a couple different items, and then it'll tell you where to drop it off. It'll be the same town for the level you're about, roughly. So, you craft everything, you drop it off, you get a little basket in return. You'll be paid gold. As well, when you open it up, you could find improvement materials, you could find already crafted items that you get back. As well, you have a chance to get survey reports. Survey reports are treasure maps that bring you to this really clustered up whole bunch of resource nodes that actually yield way more than a normal resource node. Something to note is that crafting writs only actually give you light materials, the raw materials. They don't actually ever send you somewhere with a lot of mobs that you can get materials for your medium armor. So just keep that in mind. But this is a great thing to do because it gives you a ton of inspiration to help you level up your craft a lot quicker. That's all we really have for crafting clothing in Elder Scrolls Online. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. And while you're at it, you might want to check out a couple of my other crafting guides too. Have a great night and safe questing.